It's been a long uphill task, Bhaav. 20 years since I lost the two most important men in my life within a span of 4 months. I just went from one day to another. I felt very alone. The helplessness of widowhood was extremely enticing for me. That was the moment when I knew that I have to move on and I have to do what I love most, and that is acting.
It started about your journey of loss and grief, and then it's showing me your milestones and how it's transformed so effortlessly into your journey of strength. Loss and grief doesn't have to be a prison that you're captivated in all your life. If you really use them as tools to your growth, they can also really uplift you and help you navigate your entire life. When I look at loss and grief from this prison, Neena, I couldn't think of anybody else that I wanted to talk to about conquering loss and grief as gracefully as you have, and to look at your journey. And I'm a sucker for learning from people's knowledge and experiences, and that's why you're sitting on this couch with me today on this episode.
Honored to be a part of
Please,
this,
I am
honestly.
honored to even call you my friend, honestly.
I know, we are friends. I mean, there's no question about that.
But I know it's been a difficult journey, but to see you where you are today and see how you've navigated your life, bringing up your two children, resuscitating your career, and being so graceful about it, just fills me with joy, actually joy and awe. So will you please, I just want to know your journey.
It's been a long uphill task, Bhaav. You know loss, so you will understand that. Going back, it's been 20 years in fact.
Right.
And 20 years since I lost the two most important men in my life within a span of 4 months. So
Right.
it was 2002 August, my dad suddenly, and 2002 December, Dilip, my husband. The journey is nebulous, for me. It's hazy because you go through it and you may not necessarily go back and analyze it. So everything is not very crystal clear as to this is the path I took.
Right.
I just followed my instincts. I followed the conditions that I was left in, I would say. But one thing I must tell you, in these 20 years, those two figures, those two people are here. They're here with me and they're crystal clear.
Right.
To start at the beginning, it was, see, my husband was ill, so in my mind, I lived his illness with him, his heart disease. I lived it with him. So having lived his heart disease with him, perhaps inherently gave me strength.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was, I was there. I knew when he looked grey, I knew he was going to go. I knew he's not going to come back. So it was that.
Yeah.
And my dad was my ideal. Whatever I know and whatever I have imbibed has been predominantly my father's influence. My mother also influenced me, of course, and she was with me till 5 years ago.
Okay.
A strong pillar. She really had my back. I mean, really. So I remember there were times when I told my children, I said, grieve. When people come and say, don't cry, don't take it literally. Cry it out. We have lost two very important people. See, to me, this was a 4-month thing.
Yeah.
We stayed up and down, so it was for, and it was different for my daughter, it was different for my son. For my son, all the males in the house had just gone away, so he must be feeling, oh my God, now I've got to look after the house. Perhaps, I don't know. I didn't really probe into it. And my daughter was like, oh my God, I've lost my father, and maybe my mother will also be going away.
Right.
I could make out these fears in them.
Right.
And yet I had to go out, step out and work. And then, of course, I took up work. And I'm glad I'm doing this with you because I'm going back to those 20 years ago when I just went from one day to another. I felt very alone. I mean, my mother was there, my sister was there. they must have obviously tried their best. My mother had her own grief to deal with.
Yeah.
4 months ago, she had lost her, her husband. And, but still I felt very alone.
I know the loneliness you're talking about. You
Yeah.
can feel lonely while you're surrounded by the
Yeah.
entire world, but in that situation, your anchor is lost.
Yes.
And it could be your anchor as your father and your anchor as your husband.
Yeah.
Your anchors were lost.
Yeah.
So you
My
could be
anchors were
standing
lost.
in the ocean, but
Also, I realized very early in that journey, which is very important, what I'm going to say, is that there's no time for me to grieve and analyze what's going to happen to me. It's not about me. My children aren't settled there. I need to just take care of them.
right.
Financially, everything, emotionally.
So when did you
in
process?
so in a way, that was I think it's happened very late with me. I kept it aside and I just went about my journey. And I just knew that I don't want to listen to anybody else. I have to continue my journey as an actor. And I know that because that is the only thing I know. I may be a graduate in some great language and all, but that no longer is going to be applicable for me. So it's also the practical part, which was a very, very, very big thing, that time.
Right.
It wasn't about emotion and how bad you're feeling.
Right.
Soon after Dilip went, see, he was an actor. He was a very loved, well-loved actor in the Marathi circuits. They had these condolence meetings for him and everything. And I was the widow there.
Right.
I felt I might just be able to get comfortable in that widow stage. I don't know whether that was part of the grief or what, but I remember this extremely frightening thought. Because that was the next step that I took. I said, do you want to be this? Would he also like you to be this? His widow? Or do you want to be Neena? I mean, who you are and whom he married and whom he gave. I mean, you were never his wife as such. You were Neena and he was Dilip and,
Right.
two individuals who stayed together and brought a family together.
Right.
So, Bhaav, that time, the widowhood, the helplessness of widowhood was extremely enticing for me.
So it sounds like you were at a junction where you had to make a choice.
I had to make a
and
choice.
And what pushed you to make the choice that you made?
Landmark Forum I'd gone for. My friends took me there. There was a sharing session and I actually got up and I went and I remember I was shaking and I stood there and I said, I don't know who I am. Am I an actress? Am I a mother? Am I a widow? Am I a daughter who's lost her father? Who am I? And that was the moment when I knew that I have to move on and I have to do what I love most, and that is acting.
Correct. There's always that one point where you turn the corner and but just to turn that corner, the trust that you need more than anything else but in yourself is the most difficult thing to do.
Yes, it is.
And like you said, it is so enticing to just thrive in that victimhood.
Yes.
To then take responsibility and charge of your life and say that, you know what, this has happened to me, it's happened, I'm dealing with it, but now I have to pick up the pieces.
Yeah.
And that must have just empowered you so much.
Yeah, and nobody talks about it. I haven't heard any people talk about this particular point when we have to choose, Every person, belief person has to choose.
Every day is
what
a choice.
What life they want to, what path they want to take. So yes, then the path became very clear to me. Then it became a different struggle.
Right.
But that struggle was something I'd chosen for myself.
Right.
And I knew I was on the right track.
Right.
I said, whatever it is, these are my children. We're a family. I can't keep on saying, mommy, sister, you can't be helpless.
I think for creative people, it becomes doubly difficult to bounce back from loss and grief, because for any kind of creativity, you need to dip into and go to that place of either joy or happiness or really feeling an emotion to be able to emote. Like for example, for me, I completely gave up dancing because and choreographing because I was like, I don't want to be inauthentic, because to dance I have to feel joy, and in this moment I can't. For you, it was, you would have to go to a point where you feel an emotion to emote an emotion on screen.
For all practical purposes, I did restart my play after about a month or two of Dilip's passing, because the cast came home and they said, no, you've got to do it. It was a very, very terrible experience.
How difficult was it for you? Because You know, today, in today's day and age, I feel that people don't talk about loss and grief enough.
Yeah.
And at that point, 20, 25 years back, I'm sure nobody spoke about it even more. Like it was still, it is, for some reason, it's
It's a
considered
taboo. For some reason, it's
you know, I don't know if it's taboo or people think it's too sacred and too intimate and they don't want to talk about it, or they feel ashamed to show their vulnerability.
No, I don't think they know what to say.
Yeah.
That
But how
is what-
difficult was it for you?
It was very difficult.
Because I don't know how many people you could go to, like even healing modalities and therapy has become kind of acceptable now.
Yeah.
At that point of
No,
time, if
it
you went to a
wasn't.
therapist or to a psychiatrist, oh, are you mad? Why are you going to a
Yeah,
therapist? How did you cope with that?
No, it was difficult, definitely. And there were like, maybe I felt, you know, like my mother was all the time there with me, like as I said, like a pillar strength. You know. But the emotional thing was she would never talk about it.
Right.
She never spoke about what did you go through. Nobody spoke about it. Everybody tries to get you out of it as soon as possible.
Yeah.
You come for a party, go here, let's go out, let's go here, let's. You don't want to do it. You want to be with yourself and deal with what is happening to you.
What this conversation is becoming now for me, it started about your journey of loss and grief, and then it's showing me your milestones and how it's transformed so effortlessly into your journey of strength.
One thing I'll tell you, Bhav, I was never false about my emotions in front of my children or even out. That was happening with the society one lives in. They're all well-meaning people, mind you. I don't mean to say that they were there, but they come in with, you know, changing the subject, little things which I would not do. If I'm feeling low, let me feel low.
You know,
let me feel low.
This is one thing that most people do, which you have just said, and which people should stop doing. And that's why it's important to start these conversations about loss and grief.
Yes.
Like I went for dinner with a friend soon after the event. I'm going to call it the event of my partner's passing. Initially, everything was okay. Everybody was okay around me. But you can sense that little sympathy in their body language. But they were really trying to be normal.
I know. They don't know what to say.
Don't know.
You know.
And
That's
like,
what I feel
and
really
then
on
they're
hindsight.
being normal. And at one point of time, somebody brought up the topic of Ryan. And a friend next to me said, no, we don't want to talk about it. We don't want to talk about it. And I said, it's okay.
I know.
It's okay. You can talk about him in front of me. It's fine.
Yeah.
So I know the intention is right, but people have to stop making it a taboo subject because what they're actually doing is they're trying to erase an identity that you have lived with and shared your life as well. It's not just you've not that, it's your contribution as well.
Yeah.
So stop erasing. It's okay to talk about a person because when people try and not talk, that's more triggering because you can see it in their body language.
What I wanted was for people to say, how are you? And no one said that, not a single person. Then it came out in different manifestations. In the sense, I made a movie. I produced a movie. I mean, I didn't even have that money.
Wow.
But somebody came to me about this lone woman had to spend the night in Bombay outside, and I said, who's going to produce this movie with me in every frame? And he said, you. And I said, okay. He said, you're working so hard. Now is the time. I took a loan from a bank.
Wow.
And of course, the film went on to win a national award, and God saved me from there.
Wow.
Yeah, it did. And that was my contribution. I mean, the placard says that this is for you. Because he would have made a movie in his lifetime if he was living.
What is the movie called?
It's called Shavery.
Shavery.
It means wisp of cotton. You know, she just aimlessly. So it was a woman who had gone through a bad divorce, but I mean, I didn't want to. So I said, this is my movie and I have to do it. And I did that. So it came out in that.
That's most important, is to find your outlet.
Yeah.
And luckily for you, it was something up there. Somebody up there was pushing you in these directions where you found these outlets. Also because, Neena, I'm going to dial back to the choice that you made. If you had not made that choice to thrive in and not thrive in victimhood, it would have been far more difficult.
Yes.
So, that's what I tell people, that find your outlet. If that outlet could just be jumping aimlessly to music in your own room, just do it.
Another thing was Dilip's friends also, they were his closest friends. Even interaction stopped a lot.
Right.
A lot of my friends, I lost a lot of my friends. Not because, now looking back, I wasn't angry with them, but I used to try and reach out sometimes and say, maybe if I talk, maybe if they come in, I'll feel. But nobody came. A lot of people did not turn up, and sadly so, I remember the people who did not turn up.
Can I tell you something, Neena? Everybody, again, this is my waking up to this fact, because you go through that. It's normal to go through, remember, like I remember the people who didn't call me. I remember the
I know
people
why.
who
It's
didn't
so
message
sad,
me.
no?
And that you will feel anger towards them. But at one point, when I sat with myself, I told myself that it was not my loss alone.
That's what
grief
they told me later on.
No, because
you know?
grief makes you so selfish at a point.
Yes.
And
Oh,
it's a normal human emotion. Everything becomes about me. Oh, you don't care about me, so you're not calling me. You don't. But I had to sit down and tell myself that, excuse me, not about you. This is not happening to you alone. The person didn't
they've
just
lost their
contribute to
friend,
you.
they've
Lost their friend, they've lost their brother,
Yeah.
they've lost their father or whatever. And then you have to realize that because there is not a conversation about loss and grief, people don't know what to say to you.
Yeah.
And then they are awkward. Like I have a friend who has never spoken about Ryan to me, and I understand because I look at
for
him.
It's too
Because
painful to talk. Yeah.
everybody teaches you that when you go to somebody's wedding, say congratulations, have a great life, whatever. But nobody really tells you that when death knocks at your door, what do you do?
Yeah. But I wasn't angry with those friends. I was
let down?
I just noticed, I felt let down, yes. But I didn't hold any grudges. I just noticed.
Yeah.
See, I am that kind. I will notice a thing. I won't attach an emotion to it necessarily at that point. So it won't be an immediate, I'm so angry. No, I'll notice it. And then if that person is really close, I notice the changes also. Those were times when there wasn't so much of
Conversation, dialogue.
there wasn't. It was a fact that
When did you really start processing your grief and start the process of healing?
2019.
Now?
Yeah.
Just before COVID?
And
you carried this burden for this long?
It was not a burden, but as I said, I kept on putting it into creativity.
Right.
I kept on putting it into what I was doing. And also I had a lot of, I had to raise my 2 children, I had to get them out of, see, their journey has also not been easy. They have gone through their ups and downs, and then being strong for them and being for them. Then there were times I felt, oh, should I be father and mother? I've told them I'm only your mother, your father's gone, but I'll try my best. But was I too direct? Maybe I have to be father and mother. Maybe. So I was so involved in that, you know, and there were times I used to just talk to Dilip and say, oh, what do I do?
I don't know. Can I tell you something? This is the sad reality, but maybe this reality needs to change.
Yeah.
Because you're a parent, and I'm saying it to you because as a parent, I feel like we idealize them, we put them on a pedestal, and then they feel the need to live up to an expectation.
Yeah.
But we forget that our parents are also human beings. And sometimes parents forget that they are also human beings.
That is I was wondering whether
Yes.
but I did try and become as human as possible with my children.
Right.
I tell you,
of course you were human, but you still pushed yourself into the background.
I did.
What I'm trying to say is that's not healthy
yeah.
for you. It's great for them. They got a great mother.
Yeah.
What about you? Who got that support till 2019? I'm not saying
19 or 18 perhaps.
Whatever.
Maybe. I'll tell you when. The big change was when my mother passed away in 2017. But of course I was prepared for that, and I felt I was independent of her. It's only after she left that I realized I wasn't. I mean, how much she's done. I mean,
Mothers.
Thank God she was there. No, she was like a tigress, you know. So after Mum passed away, after my Cleo passed away in 2018, I think, and then by then my children had grown up into independent people, made their own choices, they were working, that was the time when I started suffering. And it was not good suffering. It was really not good suffering. It was, 18 I thought I was okay, then 19 and it was getting manifested in my illnesses, you know.
Right.
It's too close for me to really know what happened to me, but I was not in a good place.
What did you do how did you go about your healing?
Yeah.
When you finally realized that you needed to do something, how did you go about your healing? What did you do?
I didn't know what to do. So I was all over the place, honestly. Fortunately for me, people like you, Niranjan, came into my life that time. See, as you say, there's somebody up there who takes care. And I think you understood my language and I understood your language.
Yeah.
And then Ryan. And
Yeah.
it was like, I said, wow,
Yeah.
I met people whom I can talk to and not be, self-conscious about it. Somewhere I think the process had to happen, and it did happen.
Right.
As recently as now,
As
last
now.
year.
Yeah, I know that you've tried pranic healing.
Yeah. I realized that, little things which may not be as big, I am overthinking, making them very big and getting extremely upset by them. So this is not normal.
Right.
So I need somebody to talk to perhaps, or to mend me. And I remember I spoke to Niranjan, and Niranjan gave me a whole list of, because I said, I need a therapist. For me, I'm a doctor's daughter. There was no question of anything else. Then out of this list, he also gave me 1 or 2 pranic healers.
Right.
And he said, have you tried it? I remember that. He said, have you ever tried this? I said, no, I've never. And I remember I took up this particular healer only because I didn't have to meet her. I said, now I go and meet, and then you see them, see them, and then they see you, and then maybe they'll judge, and maybe I'll judge, and maybe I won't like.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always that fear, for
Yeah.
me more. So I chose this one person, and she had certain things, and I don't know, Bhaav, but she really worked for me on that level.
Right.
I really felt that slowly the layers came out. Slowly, she started uncovering, and I realized that I had to be very open, because there was something which is, the big hurt was still there, the big hurt, literally, the hurt locker, whatever you call it.
So pranic healing helped you?
Tremendous.
So what is interesting in what you've just said, Neena, is most people say that, how do I know that I need healing? How do I know that I need therapy? Whatever you choose to call it, is when you realize that this is not me.
Yeah.
This is not who I am.
Yeah.
What is changing me? When you go behind the what and then you start peeling off the layers, is when just that what will lead you to healing.
Yeah,
and
but it's today, looking back, and you being so articulate about it, I can understand that it wasn't me. But yes, I did feel that I don't want to be this person whom I am becoming.
Yes, true. Now that brings me to a question, because you come from a family of doctors.
Yeah.
Your father was a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
That means it's a logical, analytical mind.
Yes.
I know that your daughter, way before 2019, was an animal communicator.
Yeah.
That means it didn't have anything to do with logic.
Yeah.
I know that you have learned animal communication.
Yeah, I just
had nothing to do with logic. Now this girl, I'm going to say girl and not lady, because I know there's a girl inside.
Yes.
This girl who comes from an analytical background of doctors and psychiatrists.
Yeah.
How did she go on to the other side, even if for a bit? I'm not saying became a believer and flag bearer. Even if she went on the other side, how did that the logic not defy the non-tangible?
I don't know, Bhaav. Actually, this question is baffling up to a point. Maybe my dad was also a healer in his own way, though he was a psychiatrist and everything. But there was an extremely emotional aptitude within him.
Right.
To gauge what was wrong, to gauge what was this thing. He was extremely intelligent about this. It was that part of me which is an actress, which deals with feelings and emotions. And we know that there is some magic in the abstract. We know there is something. We know it. Now there are people, see, every person, every human being knows it. But it depends on which muscle you want to activate.
Correct.
Now with me, I've activated the muscle of feelings and emotion, because that's what I deal with, and that is my profession.
Right.
So I need to be insensitive, this thing. I think it is to do with who I am today.
Right.
It's nothing to do with who my parents were, how they brought me up, or who Dilip was, how he was with me. It's nothing. This was my own thing for the first time, perhaps.
Can I tell you now what this story sounds like?
Yeah.
It sounds so. It started with your story of loss and grief.
Yeah.
Then it became your story of strength.
Yeah.
Now it has become your story of grounding into who you truly are.
Yeah.
And becoming that individual and cutting those cords of identifications that you've made with other
But
people.
it hasn't been without pain, let me tell you.
It's never going to be without pain.
My
It is going
God,
to be
yeah.
with pain, because from the time you're born, you're taught to identify
Yeah.
in relation to somebody else.
Yeah.
So this is now, that cord cutting is the most painful. So it's, that's why I have you on this couch, because this is the story of
I
strength.
guess friends see it first and the
Of
person
course.
who's going through it does not see it.
That
But I
always.
definitely know I'm in a very, very happy place. And in fact, I think my children somewhere must be getting surprised at the 360-degree turn in me. I mean, I was just wallowing, completely downtrodden person who say, bell, mujhe maar, kind. I literally become, anybody could come and insult me, and I used to get upset with it and not go back and bash him up again, which I should have, if at all it happened. But I think it is you who eventually are responsible for the way you conduct your life.
Yeah.
All those things are there, all your background, the way your teachings of your parents, but you can't make that your life.
Right.
You cannot make that your life.
What you have just said, I said on another podcast, that we are born with joy, unfiltered joy.
Yeah.
Somewhere through our lives, we forget what it is to feel joyful, and then only to return back home, which is that place of joy. When you found that is when you reminded yourself of that, you went back to being that joyful
honestly,
person. Yeah. On a ratio, how much of you is an analytical mind and how much of you is a believer in the intangible?
No, I think my analytical mind is a little more still.
Right.
Because I think we read a lot, we are aware, and we talk about this a lot.
Yeah.
But the other side also has, I would say, a 60-40.
Which is great.
Yeah.
Which is great. None of them.
I don't want it to be ulta,
No.
I don't want it the other, like 60 of that, because then again you start going haywire.
Correct. The thing is, the ratio will always be different for different people, and it's okay for it to be different for different people. And even if it was 70-30 or 80-20, there's no correct right or wrong.
There is no right.
But
there's
at
no
least
right and wrong.
What I am getting at is there's an allowance to the idea of something exists there, and from that perspective, there's an allowance of something exists here which is logical. So which is what we should be striving for. It will never be 50-50. To be really honest, it will never be 50-50.
No, it will, and it shouldn't also. Then we'll be too ideal, I think. For the world.
Correct.
The world won't be able to handle us.
Correct. So, but at least, the journey is to find and at least figure out how much is analytical, how much is not.
What about you? I mean, how much do you feel is?
I honestly, I feel in my case, it is a 60-40, but the other way around.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Because I have experienced so much in the last 2 years, things that I cannot explain and have no logic. I'm just like, there's something here. There's something that the mind cannot explain.
Yeah. That is definitely.
What the mind can explain, it calls logic. What the mind cannot explain, either it instills fear about or doubt about, or just says, oh, this is just woo-woo stuff. But I have first-hand experienced so much of something that I cannot explain, but I still hold on very tightly to the logical part of me, because that is something that will keep me grounded, that will keep me sane. I have to say this, I've never said this to you before, and I'm going to take this opportunity to say it on camera.
Hope it's something nice.
It is something nice. So, the thing is that I want to thank you, because when I was going through the process of doubt and not knowing what I was receiving and what I was putting out, I just decided one day to start a conversation about loss and grief, and to start also put out stuff that I was channeling in that moment. And you were one of the very few people who kept responding to my posts and saying, this is something which resonates with me so much.
The fear thing, I think.
The fear thing, there was a guilt thing. So you kept saying, this resonates with me so much. This speaks to me because I've gone through it. And just knowing that there's one person out there who's going through or who feels the same way that I do, you have no idea how much strength that gives you. That gives you just so much self-assurance that, hello, I'm not going completely crazy and I've not just lost my marbles. And I've never thanked you for it.
No,
but
don't thank. I have to thank you, in fact. We can go on this thing. No, I'll tell you why. Because what you write on your social media, I mean, for me, it's fascinating that you have processed it so well and you are so articulate about it. See, I'm not that articulate about what I feel or what I'm going through. Many years later, perhaps I can, on hindsight is my favorite term. But you are so articulate about what you have gone through, what you're going through, and where you want to reach.
Right.
I think that, the past, the present, and the future. You know how much importance to give each thing. Like just now, you need the past a little more to get rid of it and come to the present with what you need to take into the present.
So this is what happens.
And that's I'm a fan of your writing
No,
because of
please
this
don't,
particular
please
thing.
don't. No, but the thing is that it's beautiful what you said. When you're going through it, you never have any objectivity. So I have no objectivity.
Yeah.
Like you said, you had no objectivity.
Completely.
So it's great. We have a mutual admiration club going on
no
right
objectivity.
now. But it's great. And you know what? Just to sum everything up, your journey is so fascinating because, like I said, it comes from loss and grief. It comes to finding your strength. It comes to grounding in yourself. It comes from an analytical background to being allowing your child to go and practice something which cannot necessarily be explained by logic, to allowing yourself to even try pranic healing and see that it's working for you, and to still hold on to logic. It's a platter of what life is all about.
So, but we have to do that and we have to try. And I think this telepathic thing, as far as animals are concerned or as with human beings, it's fascinating. And if you meet the right person, see, sometimes what happens is,
important.
if
That's
you
where logic plays a good.
you have to be very careful. I mean, I would, since you're doing it for the audience, I would say, you have to be, you can't blindly go into this and that. And this herd mentality, we didn't follow herd mentality. You didn't follow herd mentality at all. No. And it's your own journey.
Also, thank you for joining the movement of talking about loss and grief and making it normal. I hope more and more and more people talk about it, so it becomes normalized. And we need to talk about it. And what you did today, and you sat here and spoke about your journey, is not easy one bit.
It was not easy because I didn't know what the hell I was saying.
Yeah, but
I was, my voice was choking, and yet I didn't know, I couldn't remember something. But it is hazy. As I said, the path is hazy, but there are some very, very bright lights somewhere on some milestones which have made me take, as you said, go to another level.
Yeah, to the next point.
Wow.
And thank you for doing that. I'm sure it's not been easy, but thank you for opening your heart out.
I should thank you. You're doing this podcast at all, because I think, and we should both thank Ryan for. Because I think he did start it. He did start it somewhere. I mean, it's amazing what we find inside us.
And it is all inside us, to be honest.
It's amazing.
I truly believe.
It's a reservoir of emotions and feelings, and you can do what the hell you want with it.
Thank you, Neena. I love you. I love you. Thank you for coming on board.
Love you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any creator needs your love and support to grow and reach a larger audience. And that is why I would request you to like, share, subscribe, and comment on the video below, because, well, you don't know who's going to benefit from this content. Also, please don't forget to hit the bell icon so that you get notified every time we drop a new video. We also upload our podcast on Spotify so you can hear them as smaller chapters in your own time at home.